Mr. Mike. Again, we just listened to your very interesting presentation in the previous session, but in this session I'd like also to get your advice about the digitalization process and online courses from a perspective of technical education in particular. How does this sort of support students from technical education, and what we need as stakeholders, as decision makers, to concentrate on this issue?
Great, thank you for the question, Chair, and thank you for listening to my English again. Apologies, but my Arabic is a little bit rusty. I do have slides. If the slides come up, that would be great. So let's start by talking about what we see on a global level, and then I'll talk about what we really see as being the biggest change agent for transformation in educational institutions. And this comes back, I've had 25 years experience of digital transformation in primary schools, secondary schools, colleges, and higher education. So I'm drawing on some of that experience as well. But if we start with the challenge, we've already talked about the challenge of COVID. I think we're seeing what we call a double disruption of COVID and automation. And businesses around the world are actually accelerating their automation processes because of the impact of COVID. And some of the colleagues in the last session, thank you, they talked about having to adapt to a ever rapid changing world where industry is changing very, very quickly. And the impact of this is huge. The figures we have on this slide are just for the Middle East and North Africa, and we've seen greater impact of COVID and in automation in some of these emerging markets. So the poverty divide has increased, a number of jobs have been displaced. So it's really up to TVET to look to address some of these challenges. The slide here shows which jobs are most at risk of automation. This comes from Bloomberg. So the larger red circles are those jobs that have either low or no education, and they're at most risk of automation. And so what TVET's role here is, we would argue, is to help the youth that would typically be affected by those low-paid, low-skilled jobs, and help them into those more highly skilled, more highly paid jobs. And the education systems have the responsibility to deliver this. And it's really not an easy task. TVET has to do this, and colleges have to do this with very limited resources and in a very challenging situation. And so I want to talk a little bit about a project that we've just completed that has some parallels here. So over the last 3 months, we've been working with about 70 universities across the Arab world, many universities in Egypt actually. They were facing a similar challenge. The world is changing, they need to adapt. Universities are not known for adapting quickly, so they wanted to understand what they could do. And of course, they asked Coursera for Coursera's help here. And our answer was, address your aspiring leaders. So with the organization, a member organization that looks after these universities, we came together and we developed a set of learning programs, a set of pathways to help their aspiring leaders and their leaders with digital transformation. And so over the last 3 months, we've had maybe 70 universities over 15 countries go through this program. You see an example of some of the courses that they're taking here on screen. So these are courses from the top universities and the top companies, and there's soft skills, there's business skills, there's technical skills, there's data skills. These are the types of things that leaders and aspiring leaders need to be able to help their organizations transform. So of the 200 to 300 deans and aspiring leaders that went through this program, a number have already received certificates, and these are busy professionals who took the time to invest. They weren't told they had to do it, they chose to invest the time because they recognized the value of investing in themselves and a value of investing in their institutions. Just last week, we actually surveyed all of the participants, and 96% of them came back saying they would like to continue with the program. So that's a fairly good number in our book. So I guess my point is that if TVET is looking to transform, whatever that transformation is, it needs to start with aspiring leaders. Not even necessarily the top leadership, but those leaders who will become the top leadership in the next 3 to 5 years. If we can invest in helping them to understand what transformation looks like, digital transformation or otherwise, then they can affect that transformation from within. So that's one thing. The other thing that we see happening is using these platforms, like Coursera or other ones, to connect local industry and education. So if you've got universities that have their own learning platforms or are using platforms like Coursera, they can go to their local industry and ask the industry to create courses on the platform as well, which is exactly what Coursera does. So I would say it's a combination of invest in the aspiring leaders, help them be the change agent, and work with your local industry to actually create the content and the courses that they feel are needed to serve them.